Welcome to Leatherbrains, the podcast for fantasy football. Now, introducing your host, Hunter Slapdog Amaruso, and Matthew Scotty Holtmeyer.
And we're live, baby, and welcome to Leatherbrains. We have a lot to talk about this week. We've got the NFL Week 18 preview. We're going to talk about the coaching carousel. We're going to talk about a douche of an NFL player and a whole lot more. As always, your host, Slapdog, and I'm joined here today by my very good friend, Alan Casanova Castro. How you doing, brother?
Yo, doing good. What a fun week. What a fun weekend. It's crazy. We're finally here, the playoffs, man.
I know. Who would have thought we finally would have made it to this point? I mean, we had to get here, but it feels like quite the journey. So, did you have the opportunity to watch a lot of these games and a lot of the craziness that ensued?
Yeah, I actually did. I mean, I know I pinged you that one time my very free, very illegal streaming that I get to watch all the games. So I do like to pop in and just kind of see. There were some really good games, some sneaky good games. I think obviously all the storylines and the playoff seeding was kind of what everybody was. And some fantasy leagues I know extended even to this week. So some guys still didn't have it wrapped up, even with this crazy time of like Skylar Thompson starting for Miami. So it's like a lot of things were in play that were kind of funny. So I'm excited to break it down. I actually had a question for you before we got started. Before we get into all this, it's kind of an initial take. What is your biggest playoff surprise as now that we have the AFC and NFC brackets? What is the biggest surprise to you? It doesn't even have to be like who made it, but it could even be like seeding or where somebody is, or like I didn't see that coming.
The thing that surprised me the most probably was the fact that the Lions beat the Packers. I think that to me was the biggest shocker out of everything and all these games that were kind of being played. The Seahawks Rams game was pretty close. I was kind of a little surprised by that. I expected Seattle to win, but I didn't expect it to be 19-16. But really the thing was, and the storyline, and I'm sure we'll talk about it at great lengths when we get to that point, but the Lions beat the Packers. And for that reason, the Packers are out of the playoff seeding, and they get to watch from the sidelines. So electric. That game was awesome. We will delve into that one. Did you have any that were a complete surprise to you?
No, I like that. I think everybody kind of thought Aaron Rodgers was inevitable. It is still weird to not have him in the playoffs. That is kind of odd. I thought him losing to the Niners would again be the story to end out.
That's the narrative. It's what we've come to expect that. So
for me, I think it's I think how everybody's so on the 49ers and off of Philly, even though Philly has the one. I think Philly having the one and they kind of stumbled towards the end and still had it, I think was kind of the storyline to me. Excited to see the NFC and how that shakes out, but 49ers Eagles is the game I'm looking forward to. Hopefully it happens.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think that, like you mentioned, that's kind of been another narrative that's being spun, is how good the 49ers are. And don't get me wrong, they are a good team. I would love to watch that. Do you have any, like, your early prediction for Super Bowl?
So I said it in a text to another group of friends here just not too long ago. I like the Bengals and the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
I like that a lot too. It's funny you say that, because that was also the group that I had going in. They just look the most complete. And you have to, you're a Chiefs fan, but you're also a realist and you understand the situation that they're in. But I mean, the Bengals and the Eagles, that's my early playoff prediction as well.
Yeah.
Let's put some money on it. All right, we're gonna go ahead and jump into let's do some recap.
Let's get down to business.
First game here. I'm this is your Chiefs. You dominated on the Raiders, as should be of no surprise. Well, I mean, were you surprised, or did you think this game was going to be a little bit more interesting?
I thought it was, just on the backdrop of what Stidham did to the Niners the week before.
Yes.
And the fact that the Chiefs have been playing everybody close to end this year. This was a little surprising to me, but then again, the end of the year, you never know with some of these guys. I thought this was going to be a shootout all the way to the very end, so I was very, very, very surprised. But this really came down to the Raiders' inability to execute in the red zone and score when they needed to. And Adams dropped a couple touchdown passes, which was kind of surprising. And so there was just some weird things that shook out that went against the Raiders, but they definitely had the opportunity to keep it close. So the final score is surprising, but there's definitely some few things that could have fell the Raiders' way that would have tipped it.
100%. And for me, I said the same thing. My mother's a Chiefs fan, and she's like, she doesn't really know much about football. And she's like, well, this should be a blowout game. And I'm like, this could be interesting because the way that they played last week against the 49ers, and we have seen that rookie quarterbacks, or really any quarterback change without having film, it's somewhat difficult for teams. And maybe that's somewhat of a narrative to write there. But I thought this game was going to be a little bit closer. Isaiah Pacheco, he did really well. He went 8 for 64 and 1. McKinnon, 2 for 6 for 0, but he did get a touchdown through the air, going 2 for 3. I bring this up, and then you have Kadarius Toney, of course, who I thought looked really, really great in this game. And for all of you Chiefs fans out there, perhaps this is a sign of things to come because Toney looked electric. But I bring all this up because for fantasy football going into next year, and for those in a dynasty format, I think we need to talk about this for just a moment because Isaiah Pacheco, the rookie quarterback that they don't have a lot of draft capital in, has looked really damn good. He's looked so good for this team. What are your thoughts here as far as, do they re-sign McKinnon to another 1-year deal? Do they look for another pass-catching vet in the running back roulette that we're about to see here in the offseason? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the only thing clouding this, what I want to have happen, because it happened late, was to have Pacheco and McKinnon as kind of the 1-2 punch. I think it's working. I don't know if it's working out of necessity with Clyde being, on the shelf still, which he's slated to come back. So I don't know how that plays in, and he's still on his rookie deal. So the Chiefs have some cap space. Pacheco, he still is intriguing to me. I don't think we've seen him break out yet at all. I think he's just kind of he's still learning, right? I think he's still very raw. I think having Eric Bieniemy as his offensive coach is very helpful. Somebody that's played the running back position at a very high level.
Yeah.
So it'll be intriguing. I want the Chiefs to keep McKinnon. I don't think you're going to get the touchdown production you got out of him to end the year. So I think it's, next year when we look ahead to predictions of redrafts and, looking for dynasty to Pacheco.
Yeah.
I think it's going to tip to Pacheco next year. If I'm circling one, that's one I want to have.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I think that, I've seen a lot of people in the fantasy space kind of, there's really two camps you can be in with Pacheco. It's, well, they don't have a lot of draft capital in him, so they're going to move on from him. But you look at it and they're like, what do you, and this is my look at it, why do you need to move on? Because just because you don't have someone a high draft capital doesn't mean they're not worth it. It means you found a diamond in the rough kind of guy who could end up being really great for you, and you might be able to focus some of your money somewhere else because this rookie is killing it. So that's my look at it. I agree. I think Pacheco is probably the guy to own in that backfield moving into next season. I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, he's still on his rookie contract. I don't think he gets re-signed, and I think he loses his job to Pacheco. He doesn't pass the eye test. Pacheco looks way more electric, and I don't see CHE getting it done. So,
yeah.
On the flip side, though, you've got Josh Jacobs running back for the Raiders. He was extremely vocal about how frustrated he was at the end of last week's game, the week previous. It's looking like he, a lot of Raiders fans are optimistic that he would have came back. I'm guessing he doesn't.
He's gone.
He's gone. I mean, the Raiders they're going to go into rebuild. That's kind of where they're headed right now. And we've kind of touched on that a little bit, but their situation doesn't look great. Derek Carr's not going to be their quarterback. And then what does this look like for Davante Adams? That's really something that people need to be cognizant of, because Davante Adams came to the Raiders to play with his college quarterback. Now his college quarterback got benched and will probably be traded in the offseason. I mean, is that a possibility for Davante Adams to leave the Raiders and go try and contend somewhere?
I think it is. I wonder, he's got to, and I know there's been some interviews circulating about things that he said, and it sounds like he's going to slow play it I don't think he's going to knee-jerk reaction get out of there. I think he's going to want to see what they do. I think everybody's gut reaction is that he's going to be gone, and I could see that, but I don't know what options he has at this point or who's going to take. Anybody wants to take him, but it's all going to come down to money and a fit and where's he want to go.
Idea.
Like, he's in Vegas, so that doesn't hurt.
Yes. He's on contract with the Raiders until 2024, and then he has a potential out at 2025. In 2025, he's going to be 33 years old, still playing in the NFL. Typically, wide receivers do not make it that long, but, and we're going to talk about this down and at the end of the episode, but I kind of want to hint at it. Maybe the Bears? Maybe?
I've thought
we'll
about
see.
that.
Yeah, I've thought
about
that. The thing that kind of is intriguing to me, the Bears need wide receiver help. I mean, that is of no surprise to anybody. Chase Claypool is not a wide receiver one. Darnell Mooney is not. They need like a true top tier wide receiver to help that offense. They need help in some other places as well, but that could be a landing spot because they also have the most cap space friendly or the least amount of cap space spent. I'm trying to think how to word that.
The Bears?
Yeah.
They have a ton of cap room, and if they trade out of that one and they have picks to give, that's going to be super intriguing
100%.
For the Raiders who are looking to regroup. They're going to want more pieces, and the Raiders are drafting up there too. So I think not that the Raiders are going to look to move up, but if they can deal Adams and get a lot for him, that would be very interesting. I mean, it very well could come down to draft day move. Like, I don't think you'll see him move before draft day unless it's 4 picks, but you could see it as like a sneaky kind of 11th hour type move that somebody's going to make. And the Bears, it's interesting. I mean, they got the space. It makes sense, but does he want to go?
Does he want to go back to and then play
does he want to go do that again?
Potentially play against Aaron Rodgers a couple times a year. It would be very interesting. Titans versus Jags. Jags win this game 20-16. Overall, this game is pretty boring. All things considered, it was a very defensive game. Joshua Dobbs is not worth any conversation, really. Trevor Lawrence he really didn't play great, but they ended up winning the game. The defense really won him this game. And this will be the first time since 2018 that the Jaguars have made it to the postseason. So congratulations, Jags fans.
Good for them.
Happy for you. You got Jar Jar Binks there throwing you the ball. So congratulations. They're playing against the Chargers in this upcoming in the first game of the postseason. The Jaguars smashed the shit out of the Chargers, 38-10 in Week 3. But Keenan Allen was out. This was when we were all extremely worried about Austin Eckler, and this was also the game where Justin Herbert hurt his ribs. So, what are your initial thoughts?
Coming back from that?
On
the game or looking ahead?
Looking ahead, I mean, this Jags. I don't think we need to talk much about this game. They did come out, or Vrabel fired 4 of his coaches today. It just came out to include, I think, his offensive coordinator. I want to say. So a little bit light on the coaching staff at the moment. But besides that, I don't think the Titans need much conversation. So the Jags Chargers.
Yeah. Intriguing battle, right? Yeah, because they already played. I like the Chargers. I think. Okay. But we'll get into the game. I think we're doing their game next. What the hell was that? What the hell was he doing? Like, he got Mike Williams hurt. I saw that Bosa had to go out for a little bit.
Yeah.
They lost. Like, what did that do to morale? I think had that not have happened, if he just rested all of them, I'd be all in Chargers. This is going to be just they're going to come out firing. But now there's like a little doubt, a little uncertainty. Yeah. People are hurt. I think it's going to be really close. I still think the Chargers
get it done.
I like them. I like the Chargers moving on and then possibly going to KC.
Okay.
Right after that.
We'll just go ahead and move on then to the Chargers Broncos game. Chargers, as you mentioned, lost this game. Denver Broncos won this game 31-28. Man, Mike Williams, like you mentioned, he suffered a back injury in this game. He underwent x-rays and test came back negative. It's something to watch going into this. So for those rooting for the Chargers or maybe potentially getting into some D-Gen stuff, this team is kind of old. This team is an older team. And so I bring this up because I want to talk about Justin Herbert in a dynasty format or even in a redraft format. Maybe not next year, but is Justin Herbert a sell to you? Like, if you own Justin Herbert in a dynasty format, like, is he a sell high right now? Because this team is aging. And if they don't do something at wide receiver very soon, the future outlook of Justin Herbert could potentially change. And I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, because he's a very good quarterback, but if he doesn't have weapons around him, that's going to really cap his production levels.
Yeah, and he's still in his rookie deal, so they haven't had to pay him yet. And they just spent a ton of money on the defense and keeping everybody together. And it's when you now start having to pay these rookie quarterbacks that you start seeing the adjustments.
Yeah.
Just like the Chiefs, the Bills, like everybody has to like make an adjustment. And I don't trust the Chargers to make that adjustment long term. I just think historically, I think if you can get a lot out of Justin, sure. But I think you still haven't seen this team fully healthy and what he can do. I think he's done a lot with not a lot of bodies.
Yeah.
And so, but God, you just never, that's always been the story with the Chargers though. It's forever and always, Phillip Rivers to now, it's just been like, well, if they can stay healthy, well, if they can just get this one guy.
And that's part of the problem. And so I'm interested to see what they do in the draft, but like Justin Herbert to me I would definitely consider a sell, because his value right now may be kind of higher than his production could be in the next couple of years if they don't. I mean, Austin Eckler's not getting any. I think he's one of the younger offensive pieces, and I want to see he's 26. Keenan Allen is like 32. Mike Williams is 28 or 29, somewhere in there. So like, yeah, they're getting older. They're gonna have problems staying healthy. So I was just thinking about that when I was kind of looking at the show notes and getting everything kind of set up and looking at this game, and I'm like, man, dynasty format, maybe you sell Justin Herbert. So just something to think about. Russ Wilson, you sent me a text message halfway through this game, and you said Russ Wilson at halftime is 2 for 8 for 13 yards, and it was almost half. Oh, man. I mean, he did end up cooking. He end up cooking at the end. In the second half, he finished overall with 13 for 24 for 283 and 3 touchdowns. So I guess he got the canola oil out and was whipping something up, but it worked. Jerry Jeudy feasted. He went 5 for 6 for 154 too.
I was just going to say something to Broncos, any Broncos fans or Broncos listeners. Spin zone. Not every team gets to win their last game of the season, and the Broncos were one of them. So that's a positive.
Way to bring the hearts of the Broncos fans back in. Cortland Sutton, he had a touchdown. He was fine. You touch any of these guys next year? Like Jerry Jeudy for me is really interesting. I would definitely consider drafting him, but I think Cortland Sutton, he's one of those late round flyers that you maybe hope you get production out of, and things could change. This is a way too early preview going into next year, and kind of thinking of while it's fresh in everybody's heads. That's my thought. I don't know if you share that same sentiment, but these guys are kind of they're wishy-washy.
Yeah, I don't know. It really comes down to whether you think what happened with Russ was an anomaly. If you think this year was an anomaly, then I would be more on the positive side of gathering some of these guys. I personally think this was an anomaly. I think you had a coach that sucked. Russ was in a totally new space, new guys. He had zero leadership above him that was helping him out. He had moments where he did play well, and he can still throw a deep ball, and he can still do some of those things. I think if they get a coach in here that can put him back into a system where he's not having to do it all on himself. I think when he came into Denver, everybody said, okay, cool. We have this Hall of Fame-esque quarterback. He'll just do it all. We'll just start running plays and he'll just do it all. And I don't think that's how he operated. You look at what Pete Carroll has done in Seattle, and you look what he's done for Geno Smith. Pete Carroll knows how to coach up quarterbacks, and he puts them in position to make plays. Geno broke, the record for passing yards his first year there. That's not a coincidence.
Freaking nuts.
You know what I mean? And I know they had an extra game, whatever anybody wants to say, but I'm more optimistic about Denver next year. I think everybody's going to throw dirt on them. I think it's going to be trendy to throw dirt on this team. And I think if you're looking ahead to drafting for next year, let's see who they bring in as head coach. If it's somebody that has been proven that can deal with quarterbacks and put them in the right positions, I would be, hedging very heavily on the Broncos doing very well next year and completely turning around. That's actually part of like my sneaky next year's storyline, is that the Broncos actually come out and either win the division or right up there.
Really? I think they'll be more competitive. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the offseason is going to be very interesting, especially for the Raiders in that division. But you mentioned it. Broncos have already requested to meet with Sean Payton. They have also requested to meet with the 49ers defensive coach, DeMeco Ryan. They've got Cowboys DC Dan Quinn, and they've also requested to see the Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. What's interesting to me is this. All of these people are defensive people. So it kind of tips their hat. Sean Payton, maybe not as much, but it kind of tips their hat that they're looking for somebody to help solidify their defense, which is already a very good defense. Like the Broncos defense is a good defense. They were a good defense this year. Offensively, they couldn't get anything done. So I speak that out because I found it very interesting and I kind of noticed that. And so I'm interested to see what happens there. I don't think Sean Payton goes to the Broncos. I'm saying that right now. So
I don't think so either. No way.
Well, I don't see it happening. We'll see. Obviously, somebody will take that position, but we'll see who that might be. Browns Steelers here. Steelers win this game 28-14. I think the biggest news here is Mike Tomlin kept his season-winning record, so he is above 500. I love Mike Tomlin. I do. I really do like Mike Tomlin, and he's just got the swagger to him, and I'm like, man, I would love for that guy to be my coach.
I would too. He's such a good dude. I saw a stat that was like, and I don't know how they come up with these stats, but it said, because obviously this is like 16 winning seasons or whatever in a row that he's had. And it said to start a career. Like I've seen stats like that before where like guys are winning and they're like, oh, to start a career, he's won, or even like teams, they're like, they're 11-0 to start the season. Like when is the season started and when do we consider the middle and end? Because that's always something that's bugged me because they're like the Steelers, or the Eagles started 10-0. It's like, yeah, they started 2-0. Like we're in the middle of the season now. Just a weird tidbit that sometimes I think about, but I think
statistics aren't real. If you haven't realized it in this show yet, we just make shit up. So why can't everybody else?
True. That's very true. But I'm happy for Tomlin. Steelers were right there. I know all the games were happening at the same time, and it looked for a second like they were going to sneak in.
Yeah.
But alas, the Dolphins could kick a field goal. So
that was my Dolphin sound. It was terrible. George Pickens, 3 for 6 for 72 and 1. I'm going to say this because Pickens is going to be on a lot of people's starting rosters next year for fantasy football, and he should be. He 100% should be. He is shaping up to be the leading wide receiver for Pickett, and he had an incredible catch in this game. I don't know if you saw it. It was like a sideline, one of those like over the head, barely grabbed it, and they're like, "There's no way that was catching." It was like he's legit. He is a legit wide receiver.
How many like wide receivers in this league that are considered like top talent? I feel like there's just so many.
There's
like you just dump them out all on the table and you're like, this guy's amazing. This guy's amazing. This guy's amazing. This guy's amazing. You're like, holy shit. Like, how much production is there? Cause you see all these guys and like Pickens going to be on a lot of rosters. I feel like, I'll just be interested to see his usage. I think a lot of people that are really in depth and follow picked him up this year thinking like, hey, this guy could be something because they saw the talent. But I think it's like a year early. You know what I mean? Like
I expect
just a little bit early.
Kenny Pickett, because you always got to differentiate now. I expect Kenny Pickett. I expect him to take the step forward. He is one of those players that like you look at the draft class of the quarterbacks with Justin Fields and Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence, and I did not know. And Trevor Lawrence very clearly is probably arguing to lead that. Maybe Justin Fields for you Bears fans. I'll kiss ass a little, but I expect Kenny Pickett to make the jump forward, and I expect him to be a very good quarterback in this league. He is somebody I would buy low on in a dynasty format, especially in a super flex. But I think George Pickens is going to benefit from that as well. So those are Mike Tomlin. Not only do I love the guy, but he is a good coach, and I feel like he will set Pickett up to succeed and do his very best to get that done. So the ability is there for him, I believe.
Yeah, you touched on Tomlin. I think this year is kind of, I don't know if he had some growth within this year, which is crazy for like a year 16 coach to have some more growth. But
sure,
I think he started the year trying to do things as he's always done it. And I think that's where we saw like Najee's used to be kind of weird and things just weren't working and clicking. And then towards the end of the year, you think, you could kind of see where he was starting to see some recipes of winning with this current roster, because he had like mainstays of guys forever that he just kind of could do stuff. And I'll be interested to see what they do. But I like Pickett and Pickett. They should trade Pickett so that way we can say
it's awful.
so we don't have to struggle.
They just need
That's my vote.
One of them needs to get their names changed. I was talking to Scotty about this. And there's a direct correlation here. In my Madden league, I traded away a quarterback and I drafted a rookie, and it was painstaking the entire year. So it translates very well into the NFL. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating for me. So I understand Mike Tomlin's pain, but he's a much better coach than I am, and they're going to figure it out. The last thing I want to touch on here, Browns fans, I'm giving Deshaun Watson a free pass for this year. Like that is the mentality I am going in with. He has not looked wonderful. I'm giving him a free pass because he hasn't played in so damn long. He needs to prove it to me this upcoming year.
Yeah.
That's how I'm looking at Deshaun Watson.
I think the refs are bullying him. Did you see some of the calls he didn't get in this game?
No, I didn't.
He got like roughed. He got face mask, and the ref's just like sitting there with his hand on his hips, like, all right, figure it out, dude.
Really?
Like, I don't know if there's some kind of like, all right, this
like
F
this
you,
guy. Dude, like this
Yeah,
guy's a POS.
Kick his ass for a little bit. Next year we'll give him some more of that treatment again. But he was definitely not getting that star quarterback treatment like he probably
was used to, maybe.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll see, man. He was bad to end the year, so not great. I saw some of the efficiency stuff, and he was below like Zach Wilson on some lines. So I was like, yikes.
And I'm sure that there is in the offseason we'll be writing a lot of articles and have a lot of conversations. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I'm telling you right now, he's another person I would be buying if you had the opportunity to do so in Dynasty. We'll move on. Ravens-Bengals. Bengals win this game 27-16. Both of our Super Bowl favorite team. Some guy named Anthony Brown, never heard of him. He was playing quarterback for the Ravens. He went 19 for 44 for 286 and 2 interceptions, just like my rookie quarterback in Madden. Joe Burrow, he did not play great either in this one, to be honest with you, but the Bengals got it done. I don't think Joe Burrow played great in this.
No.
From what I expect and I've come to expect from Joe Burrow, it just didn't look great.
So that's where this is tough if your fantasy leagues continued into this last one, because they knew they were going to have to play each other again.
Yeah.
I figured this was going to be super vanilla. Like nobody's going to like tip their cap. Nobody's going to be running anything to get guys open. And like, you're going to see probably next week. I think next week you're going to see a more convincing win from the Bengals, I think, because they're holding on to stuff. This is a division rival, right? Like they knew they just had to lean on them to win. So I didn't expect, I think that's it's hard to pull anything out of this of substance just because they're playing cards close to the vest. The Ravens were just kind of like limping around, and so it's tough to gauge this one.
Well, and you mentioned limping around. Lamar Jackson should be back, ? For this upcoming game, but he hasn't even practiced for a month. So like it's not a good look. The Ravens aren't going to win this game. There's no way the Ravens win this game.
The Bengals D-line is for real. Those Bengals wide receivers are for real. Joe Burrow can sling. Like I said, they're my favorites to come out of the AFC. So
yeah, I agree.
Fully expect them to drop the hammer on them next week.
Okay. Rematch. So we'll see the Ravens-Bengals in the postseason. They will get a rematch this upcoming week, and we both fully expect the Bengals to win. So D-Gens, get on it. Next game, Vikings-Bears. Vikings win this game 29-13. The Vikings pretty much played their subs once they secured the lead in this game, so nothing really to talk about other than the Bears secured the first overall pick, which we'll get to in a moment. The Vikings will be playing the Giants next week due to the fact that the 49ers beat the Cardinals. So, Vikings versus Giants. Two teams that I think are frauds. I'm just stating that. I think this is the fraud bowl.
I was just thinking that.
It's gross. I mean, I would eat that.
I don't know. I like the Giants. Give me the Giants in that one.
You're gonna take the Giants? I'm gonna take the Vikings.
Okay.
The Giants have no wide receivers. All they have is Saquon and Danny Dimes.
They have Kenny Golladay, who caught a touchdown pass. So
he was probably only 72 receptions away from hitting his bonus.
Things are looking up, baby.
Ridiculous. Okay. We're going to move on. This game's gross. Giants versus the Eagles. The Eagles win this one 22-16. This game did not mean anything, so the Giants rested their starters, which was probably a good thing, given the fact that they have no wide receivers, like I mentioned. So hopefully Saquon's got fresh legs. This was Jalen Hurts' first game back since week 15. He looked a little rusty. And he looked like, and I don't know if you watched this game, but there was a moment in particular where he could have lowered his shoulder and got the first down, and he slid. He's
Well,
protecting himself. I think he's preserving himself for the playoffs.
oh yeah. I mean, it was a shoulder injury that's kept him out, right? I don't think the first thing the coaches wanted to see was him truck the Giants in a meaningless Week 18 game.
Exactly.
I think this was more just like staving off because the Cowboys pooped themselves, so it didn't matter. But it was more just like making sure they get that bye. But you, like I said, you don't want him to be like almost a month out with no game interaction, right? Because then you're going to come out in that divisional game, and he's going to be, using that first quarter to get back to it, and anything can happen. And then, so I think this was smart for the Eagles. I think also, again, keep it vanilla. Just let him kind of move around, get back, get his legs under him a little bit. But I think they'll be fine going into the playoffs.
I could not agree more. Eagles, as you mentioned, they have first round bye, and then the Giants versus the Vikings that we just touched on. So the Fraud Bowl. Next up here, Bills versus the Patriots. This game was good, dude. This game was a good game. It was pretty close for quite a while, and I am just ready for Bill Belichick to retire. And I wrote these show notes before, but he's coming back, and I'm like, damn it. Like I legitimately last night I'm getting things ready. And I'm like, maybe he'll retire this year. And then I woke up this morning and one of the first notifications was Bill Belichick plans to coach in 2023. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. So Gabe Davis is really what I want to talk about for fantasy football purposes anyway. He went 3 for 10 for 39 yards. So last year, everybody, they rode the end of the year hype train on Davis, and the train really never left the station. So what are your initial thoughts on him next season? Is he somebody, very obviously his ADP is going to drop, but like, let's say in a dynasty format, is he a buy? Is he just a hold? Is he, I'm not interested? Like, what are your thoughts here?
If you're getting him, you're stashing him. I don't think you have any real plans for him to like contribute in any meaningful way. I was high on him too. I thought as they ended last year, I thought maybe they found something in that offense. Obviously there's Diggs, but you thought he would creep up more and maybe have a couple more competing interactions where you're like, well, this guy could be a one, like you see with the Bengals, right? Like, they have Jamar Chase as the one, but then they have some other guys like T Higgins where they pop up and you're like, well, that guy's really good too. And he just never showed that. And I don't know if that's just Josh Allen not really trusting him, or
he does have rocks for hands.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably it, right? Like you're not going to throw it to the guy. Like it's just kind of like if you've ever played pickup basketball somewhere, if you see a guy's airballed it 3 times, probably not passing him the ball, right?
Okay,
like he's on my team, but I don't trust him to actually get me anywhere.
Yeah.
If you're getting him, I would just, because you're stashing him. If you have him currently on your roster, just, I don't know.
Here's what I want. I want him in the offseason. He needs to buy a jugs machine, put it in his house. He needs to be catching at least 200 balls a day. That's what needs to happen for me to love Gabe Davis again. He is what he is. And I think that's kind of what. Go ahead.
You had me at jugs. So, yeah, I agree. And on that front.
That's what he needs. But there's one other Bills player I want to talk about here for a moment. It's James Cook. Because I think in a dynasty format, he is a buy while you can. And that's my opinion on him. Devin Singletary and Nyheim Hines are on a contract year. And James Cook, they've been working into this offense. I really, and it still might be a split backfield. They might re-sign somebody else, but I think James Cook is going to have a very feasible role in this offense in this upcoming year.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing, I mean, we didn't lead off with, obviously, this was the first game back for the Bills after the DeMar Hamlin stuff. And
yes,
I watched this game from kickoff, which if you started from the kickoff was a touchdown, and they got a couple of those, which kind of tipped the scales. But if you take those away, which doesn't mean the Bills weren't going to score anyways on those offensive possessions, this game was even much closer than it looked even in the final scorebook. And so I think, man, Hines was cruising. I didn't realize he was that fast.
He's fast, man.
But I agree. Buying low on James Cook, I think what the Bills did was super impressive. They were obviously dealing with a lot. I was really interested to see how they'd come out and play. And this was one of those games that wasn't holding stuff back. They were playing. The Bills needed to secure that too. They wanted to make sure that if they had an AFC title game situation, it was neutral. There's a lot of things in play, right? And, obviously getting the edge over the Bengals, like if they have to play them, they don't have to go to Cincinnati. So there was a lot these teams were playing for, and obviously the Patriots playing to get in. So this was a really good game, and I think it did show you a lot. I like James Cook when they ran. Again, this is one of those things like I wish the Bills would just run it more because they can
Kind of
run
like the
the
Chiefs,
ball.
maybe.
Yes, same exact. But Andy Reid's never going to do that. I think his wife pays him with like however many times he passes the ball, that's how many cheeseburgers he gets. And so he's like, all right, here we go, boys.
Dude, what a life. I would love
Buckle
that.
up. Buckle the fuck up. We're passing.
Every
But
touchdown
yeah.
he gets bacon on one of his cheeseburgers.
Yeah. I know next week. So we got Dolphins and Bills in that
Yeah.
matchup. How many? Okay, one thing I want to say. I love the playoffs, but how fucking dumb is it that they have, like, I know they can't like fix it anyway, but like we just saw them play twice already and they're going to play for a third time. And
Yep.
the Ravens and the Bengals play each other all the time. We're going to see them play again. And it's like, all right, well, we know how this one's going to go. So the
Have
Bills.
the NFL script writers make it a little bit more fun for us
Yeah.
at home.
Right. For sure. But
Yeah,
Bills,
I expect Bills to win that. I'm
Yep.
sure you probably do as well. Which we'll just bring it into the Jets Dolphins here, because it is very glaring that the Jets need help at the quarterback position very badly. Joe Flacco, starting quarterback for him this week, went 18 for 33 for 149 yards. Garrett Wilson, 9 for 17 for 89 yards. Garrett Wilson had 51.5% of the target share. Jesus.
yeah.
What
Yes.
what
Yes.
the hell, man?
Hey.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, Flacco knows, man. You get it to your ballers and see what they can do. I mean, obviously they did not do anything when they did try to get it to him, but they were looking at him, and I think this was a good warm-up game. I think that Tom Brady was paying very close attention to this and seeing like what his next team was going to look like.
Are you riding the train? You riding the TB12 to the Jets train?
I'm more writing it for you just so that way I can see this come to fruition. So that way we can, harp on how you called it more so. And it's intriguing. But I also like to think that maybe that is what's happening. So he probably, my storyline is probably that Tom texted Joe and said, just throw it Garrett's way a bunch. So
let me see what this kid can do.
I know you can't throw as well as I can, but just throw it that way. We'll see. I can judge from there.
We'll see. I still think it's going to happen. Jason Sanders, he had a 50-yard field goal to give the Dolphins the lead, meaning that for the first time since 2016, the Dolphins are headed to the postseason. They also needed the Patriots to lose to the Bills, which did happen. So, as a pro Dolphins podcast, we are not a Chiefs podcast. We are a Dolphins podcast. We get in the dub. We're going to beat the Bills.
No way.
No.
Tua's not going to play, right?
I don't know, man. That dude has scrambled egg for brains. So
yeah, he shouldn't play. So he's not. And then
I'm curious, and I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but I am genuinely curious as your thoughts. Is there a potential that he just retires due to like mental health stability? Like, is that
I've thought about that. I think the way the NFL is now, I think if it happened, I don't think anybody would be shocked. Okay. Right?
No, because I think this. I've had this thought, and I'm just like, I don't know if it's real or not. Like, I don't know, because I'm not a doctor. I'm about as far from a doctor. I look like an ice road trucker. Hard to believe.
Right. Shocking.
Does he retire? Like, it's just it's a weird thing to think about, but I think that you're allowed to have those thoughts because of what's going on.
Yeah, 10 years ago you'd be called crazy. I think today you'd be like, well, undocumented concussions. I think we all saw a lot. Documented is, probably what they'll lean on. Like, oh, you only had 2, man. And it's like, well, that's not like what my hand-eye coordination tells me. So
yeah, this dude had like
I might hang him
this
up.
Year.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, Bucks Falcons win this game 30-17. Tom Brady played for a little bit. I think he went off on the sideline. That's when he texted Joe Flacco and said, hey, start throwing it to Wilson. Bucks players were pulled out a little bit before halftime. This game did not matter whatsoever, except for the fact that Desmond Ridder got his first NFL touchdown. So celebrations for him. He actually got 2. But there's a couple things here. The Falcons are an interesting team going into next year. They're not the team to watch for me, but they're a team that could end up being much more bountiful for your fantasy harvests. Tyler Algier he went 24 for 135. He's a buy. He's a really good buy for me in a dynasty format. I think in redraft he's going to be one of those mid-tiered running backs, like your round 4, your round 5 running backs. Grab him. I'm so excited for this young man and what he is going to bring to this team because the Falcons like to run the ball. Very evidently, they did it 24 times with their rookie. So, buy Tyler Algier. This is me telling you, buy Tyler Algier. Drake London, he actually had a really good game as well. He went 6 for 8 for 120. Kyle Pitts will come back next season. I'm in the camp the Falcons they're going to be playing with Ritter. Like they're going to give him a chance next year.
Yeah. Well, we know Scotty, is going to lean on Pitts again next year. So I really hope that he can
early to mid third round. Scotty, looking forward to you drafting him again there.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, this game didn't matter, but the Bucs play the Cowboys next week. So let's pause that and we'll talk about the Cowboys game this week first, because the Cowboys did not look good. No. Washington won this game 26-6. Sheesh. They played their starters the whole time. So I want to say that they played all of their starters the entire time, and the Commanders whooped their absolute ass.
Yeah, we can say ass on this podcast.
Yeah, we can say ass. Cowboys, they secured a spot, so it didn't really matter too much, I guess. But they didn't.
It looked like it mattered, though, didn't it? To them,
yeah. They didn't bench anybody. If they would have benched everybody, it would have been a completely different conversation. I'd been like, let's move on.
McCarthy took a page out of Staley's playbook. It's like, how can I ruin my team's morale going into the postseason? What's the best way I can do that? Yeah,
Taylor Heineke wins the game. I guess it wasn't Heineke. It was
it was Sam Howell out of North Carolina, which he actually looked pretty good too. And that Cowboys defense was out there too. So
okay, but I does this give is this all the Commanders need? Is like him doing decent? So they're like, let's just ride him next year. Let's not. Okay.
No, well,
I didn't want that.
Commanders are going to be sold too, aren't they? Isn't that what's happening? They're being sold.
They might be. Yeah.
So who knows what they're going to do? I don't know which direction. I don't know which direction they're going to go. Yeah.
We as a Leather Brains team, we'll just
somebody ping us the Commanders Venmo, and we'll just send over some money and say yes. We'll take.
I would love that. I would love nothing more to go in and fix the Commanders
Okay,
organization.
real quick, if we buy the Commanders, what do we change their name to? Because Commanders, isn't it?
Commanders is terrible. I'm thinking, man, this is really put. Well, I'm biased here. I like Bison. The Bison, but that's pretty generic. I would want to do something cool. Like I'm thinking something with space, because you could do some really cool uniforms with some space themed. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if you have any ideas.
I would go with the Indians just to go back to where they were. just to fuck with everybody.
Right back.
We're the Indians now. Go back to the old logo.
Oh shit, that would be great. So the Cowboys, as I mentioned, will be playing the Bucs, who they lost to in week 1. So the Cowboys lost to the Bucs week 1, and now they're going to play together in the postseason. What do you got? What are you thinking? Initial thoughts?
The Cowboys, we'll see. Well, I want to say both teams kind of got hosed here because they have to play the Monday night game. And so they're going to be on the shortest rest of everybody if they have to play the weekend.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting one. The game specifically, I like the Bucs. The way the Cowboys look, I think a lot of people are going to lean that way. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys won, because the Bucs have also not looked great. But I think hosting everything that we just saw with the Cowboys, this is all ripe for a very ugly.
It's bullshit. Exit. It's bullshit, because Tom Brady is going to come in and do some bullshit and probably end up in the Super Bowl, and we're all just going to be like, this is a bunch of horse shit. Now, I do want to put an asterisk next to my Jets prediction to Tom Brady to the Jets, because I think a lot of that determines how Tom Brady does in the postseason. Because if Tom Brady makes a deep playoff run, I think there's a potential he could retire and be done with it. But if he loses this game, I think he comes back next year, because he doesn't want to end on that note, and he'll go somewhere that will give him the best possibility to succeed.
I think the funny thing is, let's say they win the Super Bowl, I think he comes back.
He's just like, he's like, fuck it.
Because he's just like, I could do that again.
Yeah, but
that was easy.
I don't know. He's an interesting one to me. Who knows? Panthers Saints. Panthers win 10-7. Who cares? Gross. I think Sam Darnold, he's not the answer. We already knew that. But I before you move on here, for those that are playing in a dynasty format, I want to talk about Chuba Hubbard for a moment, because he is a really interesting buy low candidate for me. Deonta Foreman is a free agent going into next season. And Chuba, he out-touched Foreman in this one greatly. He went 21 versus Foreman's 12. So there are a lot of glaring holes in this Panthers organization that needs fixed. First, they need to find a coach, and I get that. But there are a lot of personnel on the field they need to figure out. And I think with him already having a position that they very clearly trust, they trust both Chuba and Deonta Foreman to run the ball because that's all they're really doing. Maybe he is the lead back going into the next season for the Panthers because Deonta Foreman may not be there and they may not re-sign him. So I just want to point that out. I'm not saying go sell the farm for Chuba Hubbard, but he might be a really interesting dynasty.
That's what I heard.
I was trying to convey not to do
that. That's what I heard. This is another one of those who do they bring in at coach situations. Will kind of be telling. I would, if he's the guy, sure. It'll be really interesting to see who they bring in.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then on the opposite side of this, the Saints are like they're very dire need of quarterback situation or quarterback position, but they have like negative 36 million in cap space. Like they're in cap space hell. So while they need a lot of these positions fixed and filled, they don't have any way to do it financially.
They should. Here's my solution to the Saints.
Okay.
If you're going to do it, just go all in. Run the wing tee with Taysom Hill and just do it.
I would love that. The coach would get fired. He'd get fired,
but it'd be fun. It'd be fun to watch.
They have a way.
Can you imagine kids on Madden playing that? You're like, what the fuck is this?
Dude, I don't want to do this. I want to throw the ball. No, we don't throw the ball here at the Saints.
No.
The Saints do have a way out, and we're going to explore this here in just a moment. But Sean Payton is their way out, in my opinion. And we'll get there.
Trading out of it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
We'll get there in a second. Texans Colts. I'm teasing you. Another who cares game. Texans at the very last minute. They went and got a go-ahead touchdown with just a little over a minute left. They went for the win. They went for 2 and they got it. This play alone ensured that the Texans would not get the first overall pick in the upcoming draft. The most Texans thing I have ever heard of. What the fuck? What in the absolute fuck are you doing? Like, why not just tie it? Why? Because you're going for, and I get it, right? There's these players, there's money, they don't want to lose, they play for the win, yada, yada, yada. But like, do you go for 2 with the hopes that you don't get it, and that's why you did it? Why do you?
I think Lovey did it on purpose because he likes the Bears so much. So he's like, fuck you guys. I know I'm not going to be here. I'm going to give it to the Bears.
That could be.
Did you see, aside from that, did you see that guy that was in Vegas? I think he was watching it like Cirque or something. I forget where he was, but like he was in a year-long Survivor, and it was for $2 million. And he had the Colts. The Colts needed to win. And it's this video of him sitting in Vegas, and he watches the Hail Mary, and he turns around and he like gave like the most, like, he just kind of dropped, and he was like, what are they doing? And his response like totally led me to believe this dude was just fucking rich or he hedged his bets severely because he was just like, I would have been murdering everybody, missing out on $2 million. But yeah, just another one. There's so many things that were layered into that one play, the end of that game, the Colts. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. The whole Colts team was over weeks ago. They need a quarterback very badly, and they have the 4th overall pick. So I highly anticipate them grabbing one there. But more pressing, they also need to find a head coach. So Jeff Saturday, I think he looks the part. I want to follow him through the gates of hell, but he probably is not the right guy for that job. So
no, they need a schemer.
Yeah, and the Texans also need to find a head coach. Wow, Lovie Smith was fired. So the Texans, he's one of the many coaches, or Texans are one of many coaches that will be looking for a head coach. Lovie Smith was fired after. I wonder if they fired him because he blew it. Like, and they were just so pissed off.
So like, chicken or the egg? Like, did he know and he did that, or did he not know and he did that and then he was fired? Like, that's a fireable offense.
Yeah, but like, you can't come out and say we fired him because he lost us the 1st overall pick because we wanted to throw the game.
Truth serum, I'm pretty sure they would say, yeah, we totally would fire that dude if he lost us the number 1 overall pick.
That is something. That is the Texans. So pretty gross. Who cares? Both these teams suck. They need help. Speaking of teams that suck, Cardinals versus the 49ers. 49ers win this 38-13. David Blau was the third string quarterback. He could not get it done against the 49ers. Shocker. JJ Watt, though, I want to talk about him. He got 2 sacks and he got a standing ovation from the crowd. This was the last game. Somebody who really made me a fan of the NFL. It was a touching moment for me, and it shouldn't have been because I'm just a big fan of him. But like, I got a little emotional, and I was like, "Son of a bitch, man! Like, this guy is somebody that I've loved ever since he's been in the NFL, and like I've followed him from team to team. Happy that he ended on a high note, but pretty sad.
It was seeing his wife cry too. I was watching that. I think it's a shame because he had so many injuries the latter half of his career, but I think people just like forget like how dominant he was. Swatting JJ Swat. I think people forget that, making that a big part of the game, which is now just part of how D linemen play naturally, and just how freak of an athlete he is and /was, it'll be, it's sad. I mean, he's an icon in the game. I think it's unfortunate how it ended on a team that should have been a little bit better than it was, have to be, and then to see it kind of go out like that. It's a little sad, but kudos to him. First ballot Hall of Famer. So
for sure. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt he will be a Hall of Famer. AJ Green is he caught a touchdown in this one, and he's getting old, and he also hinted at this being his last game. I bring all this up because the Cardinals, and we'll talk about, Cliff Kingsbury got fired, Steve Keim, the GM, is gone. We'll discuss that here in just a moment. But I bring up JJ Watt, AJ Green, because some of these talented players, and I won't say AJ Green is as talented as he used to be, but
used to be.
Yeah, used to be. I think there's a chance DeAndre Hopkins gets traded in the offseason. I think that is a potential because
Okay, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm I'm like, what is he going to say?
Or listen, hear me out. So Cliff Kingsbury is out. Cliff pretty much handpicked Kyler.
Yeah.
Do they get a coach in early enough? Obviously, they should before the draft. Like, if these teams are smart, they get their coaches in place before the draft, because otherwise you're just drafting guys with uncertainty of how you're actually going to play the game of football.
Exactly.
Do they entice a bigger name coach to come in and draft a quarterback that he wants third
and trade Kyler?
Well, you got to think about it. Kyler, what's his best weapon is his legs, and guys coming back from ACL, it's kind of, it's not certain.
See, and I agree.
It's iffy, but that's also not the next coach's guy. And I think Cliff put up with a lot of that shit because it was his guy. And I don't think the next coach really cares.
No,
next coach is not going to care.
No, I know that. And that's, man, that had not crossed my mind until you said that. Damn it, Alan. Cardinals fan, if Brainiacs did not know that. I mean, Kyler has a good arm. Kyler has a better arm than Lamar Jackson. But his problem is his ability to stay healthy. And much like Patrick Mahomes, running the football is a different dynamic. But the problem with Kyler Murray is he doesn't go down unnecessarily sometimes. He will try and, like, Patrick is safe when he runs, and Kyler is not that same way. That is an interesting prospect. I don't see it realistically happening. I don't, because there are some other needs on this team, and that we'll talk about at the end of the episode when we kind of give our way too early draft recap or draft predictions. But I don't see them doing it. I see them bringing in a head coach, and I do believe it's going to be Sean Payton. I firmly do believe that Sean Payton will be the next head coach. I would love it to be Sean McVay. We joked about it. I got so excited I almost peed myself. But I really honestly think Sean Payton is going to be the head coach of the Cardinals, because, and here's why. Sean Payton has stated he wants to go somewhere warm. It's warm in Glendale. Sean Payton has also stated he wants to go somewhere that it has the potential to contend. You look at this roster, we should have been a lot better than our record. Period. Third thing, he wants control over personnel. Now, the Cardinals don't need the 4th overall pick. They do not need the 4th overall pick. I think the Cardinals, and I'm going a little too early here, I think the Cardinals trade out of their 4th overall pick. And they're going to have to trade something. They're going to have to trade the Saints to get Sean Payton. The Saints have come out and said that they want compensation for Sean Payton because he is still under contract. I think the Cardinals are going to give it to him. And I think Sean Payton's going to be the head coach there. I would love that. I don't think they're going to move on from Kyler Murray because they signed him to a massive contract. He is, put air quotes there, but he is a franchise quarterback for them. Alibi's hurt. But that's what I see happening. I see them trading away DeAndre Hopkins because I don't want to say next season is a wash, but you're going to have to figure some shit out. Kyler Murray's not going to be ready at the start of the season. DeAndre Hopkins is not getting any older, or any younger, rather, and he still has worth in the league. Maybe he goes to the Bears.
Question.
Okay.
Does Peyton want to come into a rebuild? Because what you're saying is all rebuild. Because if they're getting rid of D-Hop...
It's a soft rebuild, though, because it's a soft
Does he want to
rebuild.
climb off of his shiny little tower he's in right now to go to that rebuild?
Sean
with
Payton
a
said he wants to coach again.
With the quarterback that's... You
Has
don't
an
know what he's
attitude?
going to come back. You don't know. Well, you don't know how he's going to come back.
You don't. But I mean, you look at it, like the Texans are under full rebuild. He wants to go to somewhere content, so he's not going to go to the Texans. The Broncos are interesting because they could contend if Russell Wilson is not fraudulent. The Cardinals, I think, are not able to contend at the moment, but if you do some of the right things and get some pieces in some other areas, could contend sooner rather than later. Where else? The Colts? The Colts could maybe contend, but their defense isn't good enough.
Yeah.
So, like, you start really spitballing and looking at all these different teams and the holes that they're in. The Cardinals are not the worst situation. I'm not saying they're the best, but I'm saying that they have the draft capital to spend to get Sean Payton. And I could see Hopkins going away because they want to get some draft capital in other places. One of the Cardinals' biggest problems right now is their offensive line.
Yeah, I can see that.
Trade away Hopkins, get some picks, use some of that to get Sean Payton. You still have some picks because you traded away DeAndre Hopkins. And then maybe you kind of, it's a soft rebuild is how I would describe that. So, and this is, look, we're all spitballing. This is a very in-depth thing.
No, I like it.
But I bring this up because Greg Dortch is a free agent after the season, and he could find himself re-signing with the Cards. I don't know if that's going to happen. Greg Dortch was somebody who should not have seen the field at all this year, and he saw the field quite a bit. So, and I'm not saying go buy him for anything. Maybe a fourth rounder in a dynasty format. Like, I would spend a fourth rounder on Greg Dortch because he has proven that he has some usability. Mm-hmm. And I think he will find a home in which, with some holes that need to be filled at wide receiver, he could end up being, I'm not going to say a stud, but be somebody that could be usable. In a fourth round pick, I would do that. So that was where I was going with that originally. But we'll see. There's so much going on here. It was Debo's first game back. He did not do well. George Kittle is feasting with Purdy. He is the tight end since Purdy has started. So good to see for him because there was some skepticism on Kittle at the beginning of the year and for fantasy football purposes. And perhaps there's a world in which Elijah Mitchell's usable next year, as well as Christian McCaffrey. So Mitchell's problem is he needs to stay healthy, right? But Mitchell went 5 for 55 and 2. He actually had more fantasy points than CMC, who went 10 for 45 and 0. But then CMC caught 34 yards through the air, 3 for 34 through the air for a touchdown. So in a Kyle Shanahan offense, he never sticks with one running back.
No.
But I would take a late round flyer on Elijah Mitchell as more of a handcuff with some spot start usability.
Where do you think McCaffrey goes next year? Like, where's his projection next year, fantasy redrafts?
I bet he's a late first round.
You think so?
Yeah.
I still wouldn't draft him there.
No, I wouldn't either. It depends. I'd really.
Yeah, I guess it depends.
You have to look
at
ADP.
Out, right.
But yeah, that's kind of where I see him at, is like a mid to late first round. Kind of on the back half of the first is where I see CMC, because there's you've mentioned it before. There are so many backfields that are getting to the point where it's a split backfield, right? This is kind of in that same situation, but CMC
100%.
being CMC still finds himself in fantasy relevance. So
yeah, and he was only propped up the end of the year because there were injuries back there. They had nobody else. So yes. I think this is more how it would look, where he kind of sneaks in a receiving touchdown. Other running backs get a little more work. That could just be to save the tires on him. But man, how quickly did we fall off from this year redraft to being like Jonathan Taylor, CMC? You're like, these are guys, and you're like, fuck. If you drafted in the first 3 picks and you made it to the fantasy championship, I just want to see the strat that you made it to the end.
Yeah. Just you had to trade rapes and people.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything? Do we want to touch on Sean Payton at all anymore, or is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
No.
Okay.
No.
I firmly do believe he is probably the top prospect. Whether it actually happens or not, I would love Eric Bieniemy, and solely because we can merge ourselves into a cohesive podcast in which we find a mutual love for each other's team.
Yeah, Eric Bieniemy must just suck at interviewing, or everybody realized he's actually not doing anything. It's just
Andy Reid.
It's just Andy Reid.
Yeah, I don't know, because he was a top candidate for the Texans for a while when Deshaun Watson was there. So, all right, Rams Seahawks. Seahawks win this one 19-16. Is there turmoil in Los Angeles there, Alan? Because there are rumors that Coach Sean McVay could be not the head coach moving forward after this year.
Yeah, when I wrote the notes, I kind of read it wrong, but I was saying, like, I don't think he wants to be there anymore. I don't think it's necessarily a hot seat. I think the Rams want him to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think they would love to just have him for some sort of stability as they move forward. I don't think he wants to stick around for that. He already hinted at retirement. He already said, he wants to spend more time with his family. I think if he coaches somewhere, it's going to be somewhere where
like a high school
plug and play. Yeah, exactly right. He's going to come coach. I don't know. I could see him just retiring, to be honest.
Just being done.
I could see him. Yeah. I mean, he got his Super Bowl. His family was in the business forever. He's seen it. He's made it to the top. He's got a young family. Like, I'm sure he's got plenty of money.
He'll come back.
He can go get a TV job right now and be just fine the rest of his life.
Nah, he'll come back. He might retire for like 10 years. Once kids are in college and he's like, fuck, I'm tired of sitting around. He's like, I got the bug, baby. Let's go.
Maybe he can join you on Madden.
But I would love that. He could coach my rookie. He's a piece of shit. Newbie.
I think he retires.
All right. I'm interested to see. When I heard about I don't think he's gonna get fired. I think there's no way in hell he gets fired. But when I heard about like the hot seat thing, I'm like, oh my God. And like, it's absurd. There's no reason this should even enter my mind. But I was like, dude, if Sean McVay was the head coach for the Cardinals, that would be amazing. Would it ever happen? No, it's not realistic. And for those of you that thought on our Twitter account when I scribbled a uniform on Sean McVay that it was real,
it's convincing.
What are you thinking? Was it that convincing? Like, were you like, oh my God, this is.
I was shocked when I scrolled. I like quick scrolled and I was looking for Schefter to have tweeted that he went to the Cardinals, and that wasn't it. It was just your photo. It was just the Photoshop, and I was like, damn, that's really good.
Best Photoshop you've ever seen.
Deep fake on
me. Geno Smith barely gets it done, but Seattle's in the playoffs, baby. So, what are your initial thoughts? Is Geno going to be the quarterback next season for the Seahawks?
Why not? Unless something else falls into their lap. Why not? I think he's shown that. I think Pete Carroll has shown to the Seattle fan base,
Silver Fox, baby.
Whatever he does up there works for quarterbacks, and I think you stick with Geno. Why not? I mean, the dude is a Pro Bowler. He set the single seat. He can do it. You just saw him do it. Under probably the most tense circumstances that you can, replacing a potential Hall of Fame quarterback and coming in and doing what he did under those circumstances and leading them to the playoffs when everybody thought they're probably not even going to make it close to anywhere near 500. Right. And so, you got it. Yeah. I think you roll with them.
Okay. Cam Akers. He has been RB4 on the year since week 13. Go buy him in Dynasty. Go buy him. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I get like, I don't know, I have PTSD from running backs
so do I.
late. So
I have PTSD because I drafted Cam Akers and it was just like the worst thing I could have ever done. And then I traded him away, and just be careful. But I just want to point that out because he has done very well at the end of the season. And let's see what happens with the coaching staff before we get too hasty on that. But I wanted to point that out as just a nice little tidbit. I want to talk about this game. Packers, Lions. Lions win this game. Dan Campbell, baby, 20-16. Lions win the game knowing full and well when they started this game that there was nothing on the line for them except to crush the hopes and dreams of Aaron Rodgers, and they do it. And
that's like a Super Bowl. That's like a Super Bowl.
It 100% is like a Super Bowl because, and if you watch that game, like those Lions play, they wanted to beat the Packers. They wanted to push them out, and it was incredible because they had nothing else to play for, and they still went in and tried to kick some ass, and they did it, and they did it well.
That was it was very boring. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like it was just in the first half was just a field goal competition, which I wasn't excited to see.
Sure.
But no, they definitely came out. We're not going to the playoffs. You're not either. And it was just kind of like holding on to them as they jump over the edge.
Yeah.
Like, you're coming with us, bitch.
Yeah.
Just holding on to them
together.
We're both going together. Dan Campbell, I mean, that's incredible. I know you love Campbell, but I think for him to get that team fired up to play, they knew they were out.
Oh, yeah. They all knew.
It's not like nobody told them, right? Somebody would have told them hey, you win this, you're in, right? Like they would have had that. And I almost think they would have lost if they
come on. Say
it. No, I'm just saying. No, I think the Lions would have lost had they known that they could have been in. Because you tensen up, right? Like once you're playing for something, you get a little bit.
Oh yeah, no. If they knew that, like if they were winning in, they would have lost this game. But because nothing, because it didn't matter, and they just wanted to destroy someone. It 100%.
Beautiful.
That's what got the win for him. Jared Goff, he went 23 for 34 for 224, 0 touchdowns. Goff's going to be the quarterback next year. Like I think Goff is going. I think he has earned himself starting quarterback next year.
I think so. Unless something crazy falls into their lap, I don't see them. I don't see them moving him. I don't know if there's anybody like super attractive for that. I think there's some things needed to shake their way. They lost some games. If they beat Seattle earlier in the year, they're in. So there's things that if then statements, but it was more than serviceable. I think he got it. He got it done. It's another one of those. Well, let's just give it another go round.
Jamal Williams, he broke Barry Sanders' touchdown record for the Lions. The Lions, like we mentioned, won the game. But did you see that interview at all?
With who?
With Jamal Williams at the end of the game. They asked him, and it was just awkward. It was and I felt bad. I know what it's like to lose a loved one, but it was just one of the most awkward interviews I have ever seen. And they were like, "Oh, how do you feel about you beating Barry Sanders touchdown records for the Lions?" And he's like, "My great grandpa died," and he's crying. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what? This is awful. It was terrible."
What do you do?
Yeah, it was.
I didn't see that.
No, you didn't miss much. Did you see Quay Walker?
Yeah, I did see that.
I was so fucking pissed. What a boneheaded and stupid move.
Who does that?
And you know what? It's not the first time this season he's been ejected from the game.
I gotta watch him more.
Yeah,
you gotta watch. Watch this guy. He's probably gonna ejaculate sometime during this game.
Damn it, I screwed that one up. He was ejected. If you didn't see it, he was ejected from the game after shoving a trainer. So a player was down on the field, and a trainer came out. He was standing in the way, and the trainer, it was one of those things where you're just trying to kind of get by him, and you kind of move him, and he turns and just shoves the guy. And I'm like, what in the hell is your problem, dude? This guy, especially after everything that has happened in the last week with Damar Hamlin and everything, you think that get the hell out of the way. These guys are trying to do their job this, whether it's a serious injury or not. I need to let them do what they need to do. And instead you shove one. What a freaking moron. And then there was a video of him, he threw an absolute fit in the tunnel and he's crying and stuff. And I'm like, fuck you, dude.
That's the part that's worse to me. I get it. Somebody comes in and shoves you and you're, maybe you don't, you can claim, I didn't know, I didn't see, I was just, somebody pushed me and I pushed him back, and football players do that all the time, right? You see a guy getting in the middle, you could kind of claim that. We'd all call bullshit, but maybe you could do that. But then to go cry up the tunnel and throw your shit and act like it wasn't your problem,
you were
that was more concerning to me than anything.
You did this to yourself. And this is not the first time that you've shoved a personnel from another team. He got ejected from a game previously this year for shoving a coach. And then dude, and you saw LaFleur on the sideline screaming play smart. And there was another player, and I didn't catch his name, but he as soon as Quay Walker shoved the trainer turned and like kind of like was like, "Are you about to try and fight me right now?" So he puffed his chest. And then there's another player that like got big on this trainer, and I'm like, "What the hell's your guys' problem?"
Yeah, you don't. If that trainer wanted that smoke right after that, like you don't. I wouldn't fuck with him because he didn't have pads on. Like, oh man, he's probably good. He's in it. Like,
He's
gonna
there's
mess
no
me up.
losing. There's no losing.
Yeah.
So Quay Walker, piece of shit, get your stuff together. You do not leave a good impression on me or anyone else. But the question we need to be asking ourselves, Alan, is will Aaron Rodgers return for another season? Because at the end of the game, Jamal Williams actually asked Aaron Rodgers to swap jerseys, and Rodgers said, "I think I'm going to keep this one." As him and Randall Cobb both went arm in arm, tear in both their eyes, walking down the tunnel. Was this, and there's a lot of speculation, and I'm sure you've seen it, but there's speculation that it was Randall Cobb's last game, so Aaron Rodgers kind of wanted to be there for him. There's also speculation that this could be Aaron Rodgers' last game in the NFL.
Yeah, Rodgers is a little attention whore too, so I wouldn't put it past him to like juking us with that, like, "Oh, I'm gonna retire." I think this is his last game as a Packer. I will say that.
Do you? All right, where's he going?
I will say that. I don't know. I know we've talked about it and we've said a couple teams that we think would be fun for him to see. I think it'd be cool to be like, "Hey, Devontae, stay put. We're going to bring somebody in real quick to help
Aaron Rodgers
smooth this over." But I don't know. Like, I could see him retiring. This is one of those, like, it's 50-50. I think he's going to look at the landscape of where he's at. I don't think he comes back to the Packers. And I think ultimately, if there isn't anything where he's like, "Yeah, this is going to work for me," I think he does just hang it up. But his agent is working the phones in the background.
Oh, you expected. Like, is the Jets come up as a conversation?
No.
Okay.
No, I think interesting. I'll have to noodle on that one.
Okay.
But I don't
we'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. I do have a question for you.
Okay.
Because, it's Dan Campbell.
Love me some.
I know you love him.
I love him.
And you also wanted Sean McVay. So would you rather have Sean McVay as your head coach or have Dan Campbell take you out to dinner and a movie? Like, which would sound better to you? Like, would you rather have Sean McVay as your coach, or would you want a night out with Dan Campbell? You can't have it. You can't have both.
Man, how long is Sean McVay's contract? That's
up in the air. You don't know. That's TBD. But you're going to get him as head coach, or you can go out with Dan Campbell.
I love Sean McVay. He's probably one of the most handsome head coaches in the NFL, so that's always a plus. And he's a great coach. He's just a good coach. He would help my organization. He would help the Cardinals so much. But I love Dan Campbell. And I'm going to tell you right now, Dan Campbell and I would not be going to dinner and a movie. We would be going out. We would have a good time. We would have stories that we could never tell on air anywhere.
Nice.
Fuck, man. Because Dan Campbell's just a man's man. He's just a cool dude.
He is. So if you guys want, I mean, you can go get drinks or
I'm going to take the selfless route. I'm going to take Sean McVay for the betterment of all of Cardinals fans.
Wow.
But a big part of me really wants to take Dan
Campbell. That's impressive. I thought you were going to take Dan Campbell. I also wonder if Dan Campbell, like, how do you think when I see him, I think he's intense at everything. Yeah. So I think he's like watching movies, like he's watching Avengers. He's like, "Fuck yeah, Iron Man, yes!" Yeah. That's how I imagine he watches movies. He's like, "Go get him, yes."
Dude, he is like, he got interviewed in the Packers-Lions game at halftime, and that dude just had so much chaw in his mouth, and like he was like trying to move it around while he was talking. I'm like, dude, just spit it out before you go on air. Come on, man. But he just doesn't care. And I had heard, I can't remember the owner's name of the Lions, but when they were like interviewing head coaches, Dan Campbell, like, I think they were Zooming or something, and he was like audibly was like, "I want this fucking job," and like that was it. And they're like, "Okay, yeah, he's our guy. Like, we got him." I love Dan Campbell, I really do, and I like you mentioned, like, I think that's a testament to some of his coaching to get his guys fired up enough to just go beat the shit out of the Packers to try and ruin their season. So like, It's cool. It's really cool to see. I know Scotty isn't a fan of him, but when we talk about this NFL draft, we'll talk more about it. So that I really want to take Dan Campbell on a date, but it would be Sean McVay for me, I think.
All right.
For the betterment of my sanity.
Not what I thought, but we'll go with it.
I know. Nate Brown, he had sent us a tweet. He lost in fantasy this week 18, 205.74 points to 205.74 0.72 points. The guy lost by 0.02 points
in a championship, I assume.
in the championship. So Nate Brown, when I saw this, my heart broke for you. But if anything, I think this is a testament to the fact that week 18 should not be played for fantasy football. Yeah, because it doesn't work.
Should we hold a moment of silence for Nate real quick? Just like
you're right.
Seconds.
Okay. We'll hold a 6-second moment of silence. 3.
That's for you,
2,
Nate.
1. Your no thoughts and prayers. Hey, bro.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. R.I.P. in peace.
Yes, R.I.P. in peace. And try and convince your league to not play week 18 because it is a dumpster fire crapshoot and players don't play. So I do sincerely. I feel bad for you, though, brother. I'm sorry for your loss. Last thing we're going to talk about here very quickly.
Yes, sir.
NFL draft order. This is our way too early draft order and maybe kind of our initial thoughts here. So the Bears get the number 1 overall pick. I believe
I'm going to go to this, by the way. It's in Kansas City.
Oh, you're going to the draft?
Yeah, it's in Kansas City.
Awesome. I did not know.
I'm going to go check it out. Yeah.
Dude, we should get some live LB footage. I'm here.
Should I?
Yeah, get like a media pass and then get some behind the scenes scoops.
I think my goal is I want to be the guy. I want to be one of those fans that they put like in those little boxes, like in the actual thing where they celebrate all the picks.
Yeah.
And I want to be the guy that's celebrating the 6th rounder that nobody's ever heard of. Like, yeah,
fuck yeah. Woo! That guy might see the field once this year.
Yeah, long snapper out of Montana State. And you're like, yes,
this is it. Guy. That's cool, though. I didn't know it was in Kansas City.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I'm gonna go check.
That'd be cool to
check it out.
That would be awesome. Bears, they get the first overall pick. Thanks to the Texans. I believe they're going to trade out of this. The Bears do not need a quarterback. There are so many other teams right now that would be willing to spend a lot of capital and trade value to get the first overall pick. Bears trade out. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Okay.
Also, don't underestimate how fucking stupid some of these general managers are.
That's true.
There's whispers. What if they do try to move
Justin Fields? No.
Yeah. What if they try to do it?
I don't think they would. I don't think they're going to get as much value for him.
You're trading out of 1, right? Yeah. But either way, like,
I just don't see that happening. The Bears, some of the Bears, like staggering.
They need a wide receiver. I'm not saying
they need a wide receiver 1, and they also need O lineman help really bad, and defensively they need some help too. I see them trading out of this. They'll get some value in the draft and or some value in some personnel that would be of huge assistance to them. So I see the Bears trading out. Number 2, the Texans have the 2nd overall pick. They're going to take a quarterback. I think that is of no surprise. It's either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, in my opinion. I would really love it to be CJ Stroud. But I think one of those two guys is going to be the guys.
Is it bad that I'm not sold on either of them? That I don't think either of them are going to be very good?
I'm interested to see. And like, you know, you can say that. It's fair to say that. But even like at the end of next year, you can't be like, I told you these guys were bad, because historically rookies don't do very well.
I can do whatever I want.
You can. No, I just say that it's not fair.
I think long term, not even just last year. I just don't think. I don't know. And I think if you made me pick, I'd lean CJ Stroud. And I
would too.
I think so. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just like interesting. I could be completely wrong, but that's just what I think. But I think the Texans,
and like you said, you don't underestimate the GM's ability to fuck things up.
Yeah.
So knowing the Texans, they'll probably take the long snapper out of Michigan at the 2nd overall. Cardinals, we get the 3rd overall pick.
Yeah. I already threw it in there. I already threw a wrench into the fire, thinking.
I know you did. Now you got.
If they're trying to get a coach, you kind of dangle the carrot of, hey, you got the 3rd. We can get a QB if you want. You know.
And they trade Kyler Murray.
No, I don't know what they do. Here's the thing. It's going to be really interesting, because if the Bears trade out of 1, that's somebody going to get a quarterback, and the Texans are taking a quarterback, and now there's no quarterbacks left really that you want that high.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't think the Cardinals do. I don't think the Colts do, because I don't think they'll be there. I don't think they'll be left with that decision. Or it could be like the movie Draft Day, where the quarterback just like keeps falling and everybody's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know, but I don't think there's a quarterback there. I think they also try to trade out.
A lot is going to be determined upon what the Bears do for a lot of this stuff, because I mean, that realistic, like hypothetically, the Bears keep this and they take an O lineman, like, which it would be kind of silly because you could probably wait like midway through the first to get an alignment that you're really looking at. A lot's going to determine that, because then the Colts have the 4th overall pick and they desperately need a quarterback. Maybe the Colts are the people who trade up to get the 1st overall. I think Bryce Young to the Colts would be a wonderful opportunity for both the Colts and for Bryce Young. He would be the quarterback I'd be most excited for. But the Colts need a quarterback and they have the 4th overall. So maybe they trade up and do something to do that. I don't know.
Here's another thing I think is going to happen, because there's always a quarterback that like blows up after workouts and stuff and isn't like one of the key names. I think that quarterback out of Kentucky, that Will Levis.
Oh yeah.
I think he's going to do that whole pro day. Look at his arm. Look what he's got, all the intangibles. And I think he does. I mean, he really does. But I think that could be another name that pops up there that you're going to see one of these teams jump into and take early. So
maybe I should go like work out for the draft.
You should. I tried to submit my name one time in college.
Did you?
Yeah, just to be funny, but it didn't work because there's like a lot of red tape. It's not as easy as you think. You can't just like RSVP yes.
Like, I will try.
I will be there
in the NFL.
I will be there.
Damn. Seahawks get the 5th overall pick thanks to the fact that they sold Russell Wilson to the Broncos. So this should have been the Broncos pick. Seahawks, they could get a quarterback if one's available. They could. I think a wide receiver is not too crazy to think of, because Tyler Lockett is not getting any younger, and I want to say he's got another year on his contract, and then he could get out. There's a D lineman that they might grab. I mean, there's a couple different ways this could go here for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And I do believe Geno's going to be the starter next year, as we mentioned just a little bit earlier. I think Geno's going to be the guy.
Yep.
6 overall. The Lions, baby. I am so fucking scared. Hear me out. Alan, I'm gonna grab my mic. Can you see? It's in my hand.
I got you, baby.
The Lions are going to the playoffs next year.
Oh yeah, I think so.
The Lions, they have 2 picks in the top 18 in this draft. What do the Lions need? What do they need?
I thought about this. I think they're going to go D-line too.
I think they could. Dude, if
I
you
think
get
they're
Aiden Hutchinson and another D lineman, like, holy shit, dude, you are going to be unstoppable. I think if they get like,
I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to beef up that D line, and I think they're just going to like,
it's going to rickroll.
Well, and that's how you offset anything you feel bad about Goff with, right? Is you control the game from the other side with the D line, like keep giving him more opportunities.
Because Goff's been feasible. He's QB.
Oh, he's been really good.
Like, he has not been
really
bad.
Good. I don't think he's going to like go flat out win you a game. He could lose you games, but if you have a defense that can kind of do like the old Eli Manning, like, hey, we just have just such a sick defense that just throw some passes to, some guys and you're good. Yeah. Like, I think that's the route they go. I think they go D-line.
I think there's a very good possibility that can happen, because they got Jamison Williams last year, they drafted him last year. We really didn't get to see him play very much. He came back from an ACL tear and was kind of he didn't do a whole lot for fantasy, but I think that there is a chance that the Lions, they're going to go to the playoffs next year. Their team is just too good not to. They don't need help at wide receiver. They've got Amon-Ra. They have Jamison Williams. DJ Shark, they signed to a 1-year deal. They could go find kind of like maybe re-sign him or find another like aged vet that still could find some production. Like, they easily could do that. Lions are going to the playoffs, baby. Dan Campbell's taking the Lions to the playoffs. Yeti, I know you're listening in, and I do greatly appreciate it. I love you too, brother.
The dude's on his honeymoon. What is he doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? You're on your honeymoon. Man. Get out of here.
Stop listening. You should be naked.
You should.
Maybe he is naked typing in here. I don't know. That'd be cool.
That actually makes me a little bit more excited.
Never mind. Stay.
Lions, they're going to the playoffs. They don't need a whole lot of help on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe like Swift, Jamal, there's a whole conversation to be had there that we'll have at another time, I'm sure, but scary. The Raiders is next. They have the 7th overall pick. You think Rodgers or Brady is going to the Raiders? Is that what I see here?
I believe Yeti typed that in just now.
Okay.
I do think so.
You think one of those two? Well, if anybody, I would guess Rodgers.
It's going to be Rodgers, if anybody, right? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Because Brady loves him some defense, and the Raiders don't have no defense
exactly
at the moment.
Exactly.
So I do think I do agree with Yeti. I think they go line. They need to protect, and then I think they bring in. Yeah, screw it. Yeah, they're going to bring Rodgers in. Let's speak it into existence. They're going to bring Rodgers in. Rodgers going to the Raiders. Brady's going to the Jets. Yeah, and the Chiefs win the division still.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's probably actually no. That's like as long as Mahomes is playing quarterback there, it's probably still gonna happen.
Oh shit.
Yeti, your wife texted me, get off the stream. Falcons, they have the 8th overall. It's gonna be Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ritter is gonna be the quarterback there. They don't need wide. They got Desmond Ridder. They kind of need some wide receiver help, I suppose. But they also have Kyle Pitts as well as I said Desmond Ridder. I meant to say. Why can't I think of him? The giant.
Algier?
No, the wide receiver. Why can't I? The rookie.
Drake?
Thank you, Drake London. Jesus.
Okay.
This show's going on too long. The Falcons. O-line defensive player. I'm not sure, but
yeah, this is that part of the draft where you just get value in the line.
Yeah.
If you can like beef up your O-line, beef up your D-line, you can. Those are always really solid investments that aren't sexy.
Yeah.
I also think they're in play for a free agent quarterback, right? And
I don't know. I think they're gonna. I think it's gonna be Ritter.
I don't think so, dude. I think that you got to remember this is still a business for them. They got to sell tickets. I don't think Desmond Ridder is going to sell you many fucking tickets.
I think they're going to play him. I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to give him a shot with Kyle Pitts healthy, Drake London. I'm not saying it's the right decision, but I'm thinking that's what's going to happen.
Okay, here. If Desmond Ridder is the starting quarterback for the Falcons week 1, I will shotgun a beer live on air for everybody.
Deal. All right.
Okay. I like doing that anyways. So.
Well, yeah. Like it's not the end of the world. Panthers. The Panthers desperately need a quarterback. They're another team that I could see. They have the 9th overall. I could see them trading up because they need a quarterback, and I think they will spend to try and get one because their franchise has no. I mean, they need a head coach first, but like, they have not a lot of direction offensively, and so I think that they are one of those contenders to trade up to do it. And then we'll stop at 10th. They got the Eagles. Eagles have 10th overall pick. That's just scary, man, because the Eagles are like they're going to be contending for a while. They got it from New Orleans, and they're going to be playing for quite a while.
Yeah, I think
they're going to keep reloading.
Yeah, I think they go corner.
Yeah,
I think they go corner or edge for them. I think that's what makes them even scarier. Because they're just going to keep reloading in the power positions.
They are. I mean, you got Jalen Hurts back there. You got 2 great young wide receivers in AJ Brown and Devontae. Miles Sanders will be gone, but I don't see them taking a running back there. It'd be crazy. Bijan Robinson there would be fucking. I don't see him doing it, but it would be cool. It would be scary. That offense would be star-studded everywhere. And that's it. That's all the time that we have. We have made it through. We appreciate all of you that have tuned in for the first time and or continue to listen to us. And
playoffs.
Wednesday we're going to be talking about playoffs. We're going to be talking about some playoff predictions, get down to the nitty-gritty of that, and then go from there. So,
you kidding me? Playoffs?
Yeah, we made it. It's fucking wild. That's it. Am I missing anything?
No, bro. This was fun.
All right. It was a good time.
Can't wait to start the playoffs.
Yep. Let's ride, baby. And we
are
out.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leather Brains. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and leaving a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app and YouTube, as well as following us at Leather Brains on Twitter and Instagram. If you're looking for specific fantasy advice, including draft advice, trade insight, starts and sits, or even if you want our thoughts on your sports bets, please feel free to send us a DM on Twitter for an answer and a chance to have your question featured on a future episode. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back before you know it.